Welcome into the Yards After College podcast powered by KSLSports.com. I'm your co-host Kyle Ireland, and alongside me every week is the one and only, the Mountain Dew pitch black void, Sam Farnsworth. Sam, you can't find the pitch black anywhere, huh?
No, I mean you can get it in a bottle at a gas station, but I'm looking for the 12 pack, man. Yeah, it is what it is. Man, these are just signs. These are just signs leading me that I need to kick back my Mountain Dew, whatever it is. I don't want to call it an addiction, but I like it.
It's okay. It's okay. I found the regular, still can't find the zero sugar in the 12 packs, and it's kind of frustrating, but we press on. Sam, on this week's podcast, I wanted to talk about a few things, but first I wanted to kind of recap with you the NFL Combine. Scouting Combine was last week, and we had some really impressive performances from these local NFL players, namely Blake Freeland setting records. We had Jaron Hall out there as a quarterback, Clark Phillips showing what he's got, and then obviously Dalton Kincaid did not participate in drills, but I feel like those are kind of like the big name guys. What did you make of the Combine? I know we kind of talked about what we felt overall and what the Combine was last week, but how did you think about these local guys and their performances?
The Combine served its purpose, especially for the two offensive linemen that were there, Braden Daniels and Blake Freeland. So they put up those great numbers and great performances in the agility drills and their 40 times and all those things that just show that these guys are great athletes, right? But the narrative on social media out there and on the broadcast when these guys are doing these things is, well, okay, how does that translate to being an offensive lineman in the NFL though? Well, I'll tell you why the Combine and why those performances were so valuable for them is for a couple of reasons. Number one, Blake Freeland, especially, and then Braden Daniels, they got the attention of executives, coaches, scouts, all those people that were there at the Combine to scout out and follow all these athletes. They got their attention. And so now if Blake Freeland or Braden Daniels wasn't on team A or team B or team C's radar, and suddenly they're like, whoa, we were looking for an offensive lineman. How come we don't know much about this guy? So what happens is now they're going back. They're looking back at the tape. They're scheduling an extra interview with those guys if they hadn't already, right? And those are the two most valuable things when it comes to preparing for a career in the NFL, or preparing, I should say, for the NFL draft, are when teams are looking at these players, the two most valuable resources are, number one, the game tape. Number two, being able to talk with these guys, get to know their character, get to know who they are as a person, their personality with these interviews. Those are the two most valuable things, right? The Combine, the pro days, in my opinion, the way they serve these players best is by getting more eyeballs on them, getting their attention for more coaches and scouts to go back and look at those game films, right? Because that's where the story is truly told. And then they get an opportunity, they're invited out, they're drafted, whatever. And then from then on, it's all about what can you do for them in practice and in games and in the NFL, right? So, but that's what stood out to me with those offensive linemen. I think Braden Daniels and Blake Freeland, they both just got a lot more interest in them with their performances at the Combine.
So out of what we watched on TV, obviously, throughout that week, do you feel like there was one guy maybe other than Blake Freeland that kind of separated himself and was able to elevate his draft stock, and then maybe one guy that maybe his performance wasn't what you thought it would be?
I don't know if anyone really elevated their stock a whole bunch. I'm sure there's multiple of these guys that wish they'd maybe done a little bit better, especially in their speed times, right? But Puka Nacua is one guy that I feel like, if given the opportunity to participate at BYU's Pro Day and clock maybe a little faster 40 time, he would take advantage of that. However, I don't think he boosted his stock at Pro Day, but he didn't hurt, at the Combine, he did not hurt it for sure. He got the people that whatever questions or curiosities that teams had about Puka Nacua, he just confirmed those with even just the drills that he did, that, okay, this is a mid-round guy, right? This is a guy who maybe could sneak late into day two. I would say that's his ceiling right now going into the draft, but this is definitely a mid-round, like a fourth, fifth round potential talent going into this NFL draft. And so wide receiver needy teams, when you get later into the draft, they're going to, Puka is going to be one of those names popping right up on the list right away. So I think one way he can boost his stock, and we've seen it before, is when you have those hometown pro days at your home campus. Those tend to work. You run a little faster, you run your routes a little crisper. You've got a familiar arm throwing you balls usually. I'm sure he'll have Jaron throwing to him there in Provo when they have the pro day. And so that's a day where there will be, again, a lot of eyes, a much smaller field to compete with for those eyeballs. And I think Puka's got the most to gain. Jaron's got a lot to gain too, but I think Puka's probably got the most to gain.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see. BYU's pro day, if I'm not mistaken, is a week from today. Or sorry, not a week from today, 2 weeks from today. It's on Friday, like the 23rd or 24th or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, going to be interesting to see how these guys, 7, 8 weeks from now are going to be, life-changing moments, but there's a lot to happen between now and then. But big news about the NFL draft today, Sam. We're recording on Friday, March 10th, and the Chicago Bears reportedly have traded up to the the Chicago Bears have traded back from the number 1 overall pick with a deal from the Carolina Panthers, and Panthers moved up from number 9. I know that we talked a little bit before we hopped on this pod, Sam. I'm a Colts fan, and I thought they were going to trade up from 4, and so I'm livid right now. But what did you think of that trade, and kind of how it resets the landscape for the top 10 of the draft?
Well, they're definitely in the market. I'm talking about the Panthers are definitely in the market for a quarterback, right? They want to make sure that
been.
Yes, they have been for a while. There's no doubt about that. They want to make sure they get the guy that they want, right? They want to make sure they get the pick. They get their pick. They don't want, we're deciding. They don't want another team to decide for them, basically, right? You get to the number 2 pick, the number 3 pick, another team's going to decide for you most likely. So yeah, they've positioned themselves to get the quarterback that they believe in will be their quarterback of the future. The Bears, they're moving back. They get a guy that the reports that I had been reading this offseason is that they had a lot of interest in DJ Moore and getting him on their team. But once you hit free agency, you're competing with other teams for that, right? Well, now they make a trade. He's in-house now. They can work out a long-term agreement to get the receiver that they wanted all along, and they only go back 8 picks. They don't need a quarterback. So going back eight picks in this draft for the Bears is not a bad thing at all. They're probably still in a position to get one of the top 2 or 3 players on their draft board still at the 9th pick in the draft. So, but this trade does shake the ground that other quarterback needy teams were walking on, like you mentioned, your Indianapolis Colts, right? Because it likely means there's no chance of them getting to that number 1 spot now.
Yeah, no, because you figure Carolina now at number 1 is going to take a quarterback. Houston at 2 probably going to take a quarterback. I mean, they do have the 12th pick as well, so I mean, maybe they just take the 2 best players they can get at those positions and try for Drake May or Caleb Williams next year, figuring they're so far off. I mean, a lot of these teams in the top 5, top 10, they're not just a quarterback away; they're multiple pieces away.
Yes.
And so maybe they
usually the case.
Yeah, they try and add those pieces, one at a time, and then just strike when they can for the quarterback.
But there's only gosh, it grows a little bit. I would say there's only really maybe 4 positions that I would call franchise positions in the NFL, where you take a guy that you feel can be that guy that you can bank on for the next decade. All the other positions, in my opinion, I feel like it's a revolving door. You can plug and play a little bit there. So those franchise positions, in my opinion, quarterback. So if you're looking for a franchise guy, even though there's more than just that hole to fill, these teams that are at that spot in the draft, quarterback's one of those guys. I think a cornerback, a solid lockdown corner is one of those guys. Yeah, Patrick Surtain II in Denver.
Pick.
But I know a lot of Bronco fans are a little upset because they have been quarterback needy for a long time. They went with a defensive back. Well, they just got a defensive back that can be their lockdown corner for a decade, right? This is like another Champ Bailey. And so it's a great pick. Offensive tackle, defensive, and an edge rusher, I think, are the other 2 positions where you can get a franchise position player in the top 10, picks in the draft. Outside of that, I still feel like with the NFL draft, you take the best player left on your team's board, your team needs. And for the most part, if you have smart executives and scouts, you're going to get a decent draft out of it. And you're going to get a lot of positions that will work out for you in the long term.
Well, we've got a mock draft roundup that I put up a week ago before the combine up on KSLSports.com and the KSL Sports app. You can go check that out, but I'm going to update that probably in the next week or so. Just with, there's going to be a lot of new mocks coming out, and some of these local guys are first round, second round picks, and they're featured in these mocks. So interested to see if any of these NFL experts out there kind of shake up where the locals fall based off of some of these moves that are happening or going to happen. But in the near future, Sam, we've got free agency just on the horizon. Beginning next week, officially gets underway on the 15th at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. But we have a number of local guys that are becoming free agents or have already signed new deals with the teams that they were on last season. And a couple of names just to quickly note on that. You've got, Kairos Tonga, who signed a deal a couple of weeks ago. Zane Anderson moved on from the Chiefs. He's now with the Buffalo Bills. Jalen Davis re-signed with the Bengals yesterday. So interesting move. He's continued to sign extensions with the Bengals the last couple of years. But then you've got new guys that are, free agents now. Bobby Wagner entered free agency a couple of weeks ago after getting released by the Rams. And then Matt Gay wasn't franchise tagged by the Rams either. So it looks kind of like from some reports that Matt Gay might be on the move out of Los Angeles after a few years with the Rams. So there's a number of guys there. Obviously, like Jamal Williams is probably one of the key figures that, had a great season last year and really kind of proved himself as a lead back in the league. He's a free agent out of the Detroit Lions. But are there any other guys, maybe any of those guys in particular, that you're interested to see whether or not they stick with their current team, or, hey, I made a name for myself like Jamal did last year. Is he going to look to sign with, another team based off of that opportunity he had a season ago?
I think when it comes down to Jamal Williams, man, it just seems like that fit just worked so well for not only him, but for the team, right? The team got more than they had anticipated getting Jamal. Jamal got more than probably he anticipated by joining the Detroit Lions, and the fan base is absolutely in love with Jamal Williams, right? I mean, he's such a likable guy, and it just all of the interactions that fans get to see through his social media accounts, but also through his media interviews, just he's so easy to like. And then the way he plays the game, he looks like he's having so much fun out there, and the career year he had, it would just be shocking to me if the Detroit Lions don't work out a way to retain Jamal Williams for the future, just because it worked out so well. They don't, it worked. Don't fix what's working. The other player, two players that you mentioned that I'm really interested in seeing where they land. Obviously, Bobby Wagner is going to be in high demand, I think, and I would not be shocked if he even signed like a 4-ish year deal, just because he had one of the best years of his career this last season. He's still playing at a very high level, at a Pro Bowl, all pro level, and he will be a coveted linebacker going into the draft. But Matt Gay, I know he's a place kicker, and it kind of feels like, I think in a lot of fans' minds and even in teams' minds, that kickers are a dime a dozen. In fact, KSL Sports' very own Scott Mitchell told me once that punters are like a part of the team, but kickers are kind of like the unicorn. They're just this, kickers kind of are their unique, different person. He says like punters they fit in with the team a little better, right? And they always say, kickers are football players too, whatever. But Matt Gay is one of those guys that he's been really good. This last season, he missed 2 field goals is all, I think, and 1 extra point. He's had a great career for the most part through 4 seasons in the NFL. There's got to be a team out there that wants him. The problem is as soon as one kicker gets released, no matter how good they are, a lot of teams already have it. It's not like you get a backup kicker. It's not like you not very many teams will bring in an extra kicker in camp for a kicking competition. They will at times, but that doesn't happen that often. They usually just kind of stick with who they like. So this is an interesting situation to watch because Matt Gay could be lingering even into training camp as a free agent, or even into the preseason or the beginning of the season even. And then suddenly someone will be like, we need a kicker, an injury, whatever happened. Matt Gay gets signed, and then he's locked in again with another team for a while. So I'm a little surprised that the Rams. I get the franchise tag sometimes means you got to pay more than you want to. So maybe they are able to work something out, get back to the negotiating table with Matt Gay and still retain him. But I'm really interested to see how his free agency process goes.
Yeah, a couple guys that I'm looking for. I'm interested to see kind of how this Lamar Jackson situation plays out with the Ravens, because Tyler Huntley is a free agent once again. They had him on that like exclusive rights free agent tag, whatever deal, a season ago, and were able to keep him. He's a restricted free agent again this offseason, so Baltimore kind of controls him contractually again this offseason. But let's say some team comes and says, hey, Lamar, we're going to give you X amount guaranteed or fully guaranteed like he wants. And Baltimore's like, hey, yeah, sure, we'll take the 2 first-round picks and, send Lamar on his way and have a good rest of your career kind of a thing. They've got Tyler Huntley already in-house. They've seen what Tyler Huntley can do over the last couple of seasons. Probably not the most impressive end of the season last year like he would have wanted, but, he's actually had quite a bit of game reps with Lamar being hurt the last couple of seasons. So I'm interested to see how that situation plays out, and if Tyler Huntley ends up kind of becoming the starter based off of that, if Lamar Jackson ends up leaving Baltimore. And then the other guy that I was interested in, he was a free agent a season ago and a season before that. It's Kyle Van Noy, former BYU linebacker. It seems like he's kind of in that part of his career where he's looking to find that home again like he had in New England. Obviously was with the Dolphins for a season, but he signed a multi-year deal and that didn't end up working out. So he ended up going back to New England, was only there for another season, and then spent last season with the Chargers. But their general manager, Tom Telesco, he was on the Pat McAfee show, I believe it was last week during the combine, and was really, really complimentary of what Van Noy brought to them last year, not only on the field, especially later in the year, but just his leadership ability. And they're kind of a young team still. Obviously, made the playoffs last year, and maybe they look to re-sign him. But I still think Van Noy, like Bobby Wagner, even though they're aging, been in the league for around a decade, those guys still have a lot that they could offer an NFL team. So interested to see where those guys would end up. But
I agree. And one thing about Van Noy too is he really kind of came on late in the season, right? He had 5 sacks, and all 5 of his sacks came in the last 5 games of the year, one each game. And I mean, he really seemed to pick up some momentum and show that he had a lot left in the tank. I mean, he had 8 TFLs last year. That's the second most he's had in any single season in his career. So he's still getting in the backfield. He's still got speed around the edge to get to the quarterback. I think Kyle Van Noy brings a lot of value to a football team still, even if it's maybe in a rotational reserve type role. But I think he's got a handful of seasons in his career left still.
Well, I know that we're in the off season, Sam, but you guys are still on top of the locals in the NFL on KSL Sports Live. What can you tease for me this weekend?
Well, Kyle, it is that time of year where March is maddening. And it's all about basketball. I know this is a football podcast, but this weekend on KSL Sports Live, we will be going hot and heavy with our college basketball coverage, with the bracket selection shows, where the University of Utah women's team is undoubtedly going to have a host for the first couple rounds of the tournament, probably a number 2 seed. We've got the Utah State on the bubble in men's basketball. Utah Valley, Southern Utah, they could lock up a spot. It's fun, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of basketball this weekend on KSL Sports Live. But yes, like you said, we do not deny or neglect our football coverage. And so anytime that there's good stories popping up with our locals in the NFL or college football teams, we'll have that as well, because spring football is also happening right now in our state with BYU underway.
Hey, that's because football is king, Sam. We all know that. That's 100%. The motto. Well, Sam, we will look forward to that coverage on KSL 5 TV this weekend. You can follow all of our free agency coverage this coming week on KSLSports.com and the KSL Sports app. If you don't have that, download it on your phone via the App Store or the Google Play Store. And until next week, be sure to follow Sam on Twitter at Samsworth_KSL. I'm on Twitter at Kyle Ireland. And be sure to continue to follow all things. We got breaking news like every day in the NFL right now. It's just little tidbits here and there, but we're going to have some big stuff in the coming weeks, so be sure to check that out. Until next week, this has been the Yards After College podcast powered by KSLSports.com.